Thanks for joining us. RCMP in British Columbia have launched a criminal investigation into the deadly wildfire that erupted in the province's Okanagan region on Friday. The fire exploded within hours of first being detected west of Okanagan late Friday afternoon and has since forced the evacuation of more than 20,000 people. RCMP say the probe was launched as a result of early information from the BC Wildfire Service, but refused to elaborate during a media update Tuesday afternoon.
Certainly, this particular fire is being treated as suspicious as every fire is until proven otherwise. As we know, my colleagues spoke to it earlier, that human-caused fire does not necessarily mean that it's arson or that whether this particular fire is human-caused. We're at the early stages here. It's difficult for us to even get into the area simply due to the fact that the fire is still burning. So early days. Investigations ongoing, but well in hand.
Mounties say they would like to speak with any witnesses who may have seen something around the Princeton, Summerland Road and Bathville Road near the Crump and Trout Creek recreation sites. RCMP also say they're aware of several videos and misinformation circulating on social media that show a person lighting a non-lethal wildlife deterrent device, also known as a bear banger. Police say they have identified the person in the video and that person is not a suspect, adding that the incident in the video occurred kilometers away from the Bald Range Fire's origin area. A resident of a tiny BC community that was largely obliterated by the Bald Range wildfire is sharing photos and video of the fight to save a home from the flames.
Fought for it. I kept the house.
Dana Joint says her boyfriend Greg Gibbs and his brother stayed behind in Fulder on Friday night to fight the flames of the wildfire as it swept over the multifamily property, despite authorities urging them to flee. Joint says there was not a chance that Gibbs would abandon his house, calling him a, quote, stubborn hillbilly who was born and raised in Fulder. Most of Fulder was destroyed by the fire, but Joint says Gibbs saved the house they shared and 4 other homes. The BC Wildfire Service says 100 firefighters from Mexico have arrived to join in the firefight against the Bald Range wildfire, which is one of roughly 100 burning across the province. With all the fires burning in BC, air quality warnings continue to cover most of the southern parts of the province. Environment Canada says an orange level warning is in effect for much of the southern interior, stretching from Merritt in the west to Cranbrook in the east. The warning also covers the Revelstoke and Osoyoos areas. A lower level yellow warning is also in effect for the Fraser Canyon and Similkameen regions, as well as Manning Provincial Park and areas along BC's boundary with Alberta. Search and rescue efforts continue Tuesday in Colombia after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake hit the western part of the country on Monday. Authorities are now saying more than 200 people have been killed and more than 3,000 others are missing after an earthquake hit yesterday, many of them trapped under debris. Roughly 1,600 buildings were reported damaged or collapsed. Yaro Vargas traveled from Medellin to Pareda to help search for his missing brother.
Es absolutamente seguro que está aquí, absolutamente seguro. Están todos sus sillas de montar a caballo, todos sus enseres. No contesta el teléfono, el portero no le dio conocimiento de salida y su carro está allí parqueado. Y no está, él está ahí.
¿Tiene fe?
Poca.
¿Por qué poca?
Porque es evidente el destrozo. Aunque insisto, allí hay un triángulo de vida, los escombros que abrazan a mi hermano son escombros blandos, es posible que lo estén protegiendo, pero ya no se escuchan ruidos. No lo sé, mi esperanza es poca.
85 people are reported to have died in the city of Cali. Several of the top floors of one of the city's hospitals, some dedicated to pediatric care, collapsed upon themselves, leaving some patients trapped and forcing some 600 others to be tended to on streets strewn with rubble. We're learning more today about Monday's shooting that sent a Calgary police officer to hospital with gunshot wounds. Police say the incident started as a simple traffic stop near Edworthy Park, just west of downtown. The driver of the vehicle started firing at police, hitting one officer, and then he fled on foot into the heavily wooded park.
Thankfully, our Hawk helicopter was overhead pretty quickly. They were able to maintain eyes on the offender. I can't stress enough how difficult that was. The offender went right into the bush, into the heavy wooded areas, little to no view from our officers as well as from the air. On multiple occasions, our offender discharged rounds at our officers, and our officers returned fire. Our offender is deceased at this point. We do know that he was subject to a self-inflicted gunshot wound. However, we cannot say whether or not any of our officers also struck the offender. Several members, obviously, teams were going in to try and locate the offender. They were yelling at bystanders to get behind vehicles, telling others to run. So no, it was very much a chaotic and dynamic scene.
The injured officer is reported to be in stable condition in hospital. Police would only say the suspect was a known organized crime target, and the circumstances around the initial traffic stop are under investigation. Conservative immigration critic Michelle Rempel Garner wants the Prime Minister to fire Immigration Minister Lena Diab and Justice Minister Sean Fraser, accusing the pair of allowing Canada's immigration and justice systems to become disorderly. At a press conference Tuesday in Ottawa, Rempel Garner says recent court decisions involving non-citizens convicted of serious crimes show the government has lost control of the immigration system.
A 34-year-old Ghanaian temporary resident was convicted of theft after a violent confrontation. He was granted a conditional discharge, with the judge explicitly citing his non-citizen status and the risk of deportation as a reason for the lenient outcome. A temporary resident from India pled guilty just this June to sexually assaulting a woman in Prince George, BC. He only received 170 days of house arrest plus probation. The judge declined to put him on the National Sex Offender Registry, citing potential immigration consequences that could lead to his deportation. These types of rulings now happen so frequently that a judge in Montreal accused Montreal prosecutors of proposing candy sentences for criminals at risk of deportation, affirming that this is a common practice across the country.
Conservatives have been calling for the criminal code to be amended so a person's immigration status cannot be considered during sentencing. They also want to see strengthened security screening for foreign students and temporary workers and a tightening of the definition of serious criminality under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. The celebration has begun in southeast Alberta. The 2026 Special Olympic Games, Canada's Summer Games in Medicine Hat, have officially kicked off, bringing together athletes from every province in a gathering celebrating unity and inclusion. RBCN's Landon Hickok is in the Gas City to give us insight into how the first day is going.
The first official day for the Special Olympics Canada Summer Games is underway as many of the morning events in basketball, soccer, bocce, and a handful of others wrap up their morning sessions. The athletes, coaches, volunteers, and attendees will now head to Co-op Place for the opening ceremonies later tonight at 6 p.m. Among those attendees is Her Excellency Governor General Louise Arbour, who we spoke to earlier, called the Games an invisible part of the Canadian spirit.
First of all, this was a Canadian initiative at the outset. There are many things that we have to be proud of in this country, but some are more visible than others. I think this may have been, up to now, an invisible part of the Canadian spirit. A spirit of solidarity, ambition, resilience, in a very happy environment. There's an amazing spirit going on here, and I wish every Canadian had an opportunity to participate in something of that nature. And actually, maybe they do, because these athletes will go back home. They're going to need a lot of support in their home community. So I hope this gets enough visibility to keep that spirit alive throughout the country.
There's approximately 1,700 participants, including athletes and coaches that came from all across the country to descend here in Medicine Hat, and about 1,500 volunteers setting some time aside to help out in the games, including what I heard reports, a large influx of volunteers also signed up late last night on Monday to help out.
We put out the needs just for our most needed areas, and everybody has rose to the occasion. And what also has happened is we have had volunteers say, listen, I've got 2 shifts, I could do 2 more, so that we've been able to fill them. So we're at about 95% capacity, and that's phenomenal.
And starting Wednesday and throughout the rest of the week, we're going to have all 10 events played every day from morning till evening for the rest of the week until Saturday, the 15th. There's going to be a select amount of athletes and coaches that will find themselves representing Team Canada in next year's Special Olympics Worlds in Santiago, Chile.
Thank you, Landon. That was our reporter Landon Hickok in Medicine Hat, and we will bring you more from the Special Olympics tomorrow, including stories of some of the athletes participating. Drivers and pedestrians in Lethbridge are seeing changes at 2 major intersections starting this Tuesday. Construction continues to affect pedestrian access along Scenic Drive, while another major project is now complete on College Drive. Pedestrian access on the west side of Scenic Drive between 4th Avenue and 3rd Avenue South is temporarily being redirected as crews continue working on the Scenic Drive and Whoop-Up Drive interchange. Several crosswalks in the area will be closed, with pedestrians encouraged to use the east side of Scenic Drive while the work continues. This project is scheduled for completion in November of this year. Meanwhile, construction is now complete at the intersection of College Drive South and 28th Avenue and Tudor Boulevard South. The intersection has been reopened today with regular Lethbridge transit service resuming in the area. Work included roadway reconstruction, upgraded street lighting, the relocation of a bus stop, and landscaping restoration. The new roundabout is designed to improve traffic flow while increasing safety by reducing speeds, minimizing conflict points, and lowering the risk of severe collisions. With the new school year just around the corner, My City Cares annual Stuff the Bus campaign is underway, but organizers say their school supply inventory is running low. The campaign is calling on the Lethbridge community to donate school supplies or cash to help make sure local students have what they need to start the school year.
We just need some help from our community to help finish this additional 300 to 400 backpacks that we're anticipating to receive. That would put us at giving out around 1,700 backpacks this year. We certainly need right now our school supplies or financial contributions for us to be able to purchase those supplies. We're low on pretty much all of our school supplies right now, so we need things like binders, coil notebooks, Crayola markers, pencil crayons, pencils, erasers, pencil sharpeners, glue stick, packs of paper, of lined paper. Seems like in years past we had a steady combination of financial contributions and physical school supplies donations, and this year that physical piece, on average, when we're buying things in bulk, it costs us about $35 to fill a backpack. So that's just a really kind of good ballpark there.
If you're passing through downtown Lethbridge and start to notice artwork covering businesses' security roll shutters, what you're seeing is the Art After Hours program. The initiative transforms commercial shutters into a canvas of temporary public artworks, helping to keep the streets visually active after businesses close, all while supporting local artists and creating a more vibrant downtown.
Behind us we have A Sense of Deja Vu by local artist Sheila Shaw. So this started as a pilot project with the Allied Arts Council, Lethbridge Public Art, and Fee Simple Law. As a part of this call, we're doing an expression of interests for businesses that they can apply to. There's a small fee that the business will be asked to contribute towards the project, and then the fabrication, and we'll be connecting them with the artists. So that's sort of our role in it, so that we're basically bringing local artists in.
I know that since this one behind me has been installed, there has been no graffiti and no damage done to it, and so that is one of the really compelling pieces of a wrap like this, is it tends to dissuade potential artists from going on top of another artist. There's kind of this artist respect.
We just thought it was a really cool idea. You know, the Allied Arts Council contacted me and we said, what's something that we could do for downtown? And what we thought was This public art, I love public art. When we first had it installed, I thought, wow, what a beautiful canvas. We put it up September of last year. Everybody loves it. The community response has been unbelievable. People drive by at night and text me or email us the next morning. We've had about 2 or 3 businesses reach out and say, hey, how did you guys do that? I even joked last year when we were first installing it, all the insects just came to it right away. There was ladybugs and grasshoppers and everything. Like, everybody loves it downtown, right? It's just kind of unbelievable.
Launched in 2025, the pilot demonstrated how a closed commercial surface can become a piece of art to engage the public after hours.
High-stakes trade talks between Ottawa and Washington have entered a pressure cooker phase as negotiators scramble ahead of Donald Trump's August 19th tariff deadline. Sources indicate both sides are discussing a temporary interim deal based on a major trade-off. In exchange for lowering punitive Section 232 tariffs on steel, aluminum, and forest products, Canada is weighing significant concessions. On the table, removing retaliatory duties, lifting provincial bans on U.S. alcohol, and accepting Washington's interpretation of how dairy quotas are allocated under CUSMA. For Canadian producers, the strategy is all about preserving core economic leverage. While provinces like Ontario and BC remain fiercely protective of their auto and forestry sectors, prairie energy, critical minerals, and primary agriculture exports remain key anchors in the continent's supply chain. With Prime Minister Mark Carney describing the negotiations as nasty, but essential for protecting Canadian jobs, prairie producers will be watching closely to see if an interim deal can head off another round of escalating tariffs. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com.
July 27th was the official opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. It was met with controversy over revenue sharing between Canada and the U.S. as Canada paid for the full construction of the $6.4 billion project. With that said, Statistics Canada has come out with a report that shows thousands of cross-border travelers have used this new neighborly tie.
Tens of thousands of motorists crossed the Gordie Howe International Bridge over the first few days after it opened. Statistics Canada is sharing an early look today at how many vehicles made the trip across the Gordie Howe Bridge into Canada after its long-anticipated opening on July 27th. New figures show there were more than 41,000 trips from Detroit to Windsor for the first 5 days it was open in July. That rivals the combined roughly 52,000 inbound trips taken across the nearby Ambassador Bridge and the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel over the same period. Canada paid for the construction of the Gordie Howe Bridge, but its opening was delayed until Ottawa struck a deal to split net toll revenues with Washington for the first 15 years of its operation.
Cineplex has reported a second quarter profit of $7.8 million, reversing a loss from a year earlier. The Canadian movie theater company says revenue climbed to a record $383.7 million for the quarter, up from about $349 million. Attendance rose to 12.7 million moviegoers. Spending also increased, with both box office and concession revenue per patron higher than last year. That popcorn made me hungry. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 17 points on the day to 36,475. The Dow was down 184 to 53,791. The S&P 500 was down 24 to 7728, and the Nasdaq was down 159 points to finish at 26,445. West Texas Intermediate oil was up $1.23 to 83.36 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 5 cents to 2.75 US. Gold was down 23.39 to 43.6795 US an ounce, and silver was down $1.03 to 64.68 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.89 per bushel. Barley is at $5.88. Canola is at $17.67, and corn is at $7.65 per bushel. Live cattle were down 53 cents to 232.75. Feeder cattle were down 58 cents to 350.18. Lean hogs were up 18 cents to 95.88. And the Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours at 71.80 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, the BC Wildfire Service says 100 Mexican firefighters are on the ground helping to battle the Bald Range blaze along the western shores of Okanagan Lake. The blaze has forced some 20,000 people out of their homes, caused significant destruction, and has claimed one life. The RCMP has started a criminal investigation into the fire's origins. The deadline for Canada-U.S. trade talks is next week, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is off-continent vacationing in Italy. So what's going on here? BCN contributor and Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilly will give us the scoop on this and other national news coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and poll questions.